G'day guys, how you going? Hope you're all having a fantastic evening. Tonight I'm going to be doing a movie review. Now this movie I'd heard nothing about it. It was introduced to me by Magnus, Vaultkeeper 2, who's a great friend on here on YouTube. He recommended me this film and thought that I'd like it. Now I'd heard nothing about it. I'm not familiar with this country's work. It's a foreign country, so English subtitles, unless you can speak the actual language. It's an Asian extreme film. It's from Indonesia. So Japan and South Korea are the big players in Asia, but this one was from a lesser known country. So I didn't know what to expect, but I was kind of excited because, my first taste of Indonesian cinema, and it happened to be a horror film. It was made in 2009, directed by two people, so it was a joint venture, Kimo Stambael and Timo Chajanto, and this movie is called Darah. It's also known as Macabre, but Darah is the more widely known title, or so I believe. Now, basically, the story is as follows. Two newlyweds, Adji and Astrid, along with three of their best friends, decide to have an interstate road trip as a last attempt to reconcile Adji with his estranged little sister Ladia. Their trip is, however, abruptly interrupted when they run into Maya, a strange girl out of nowhere, who wanders aimlessly into their path. "I've been robbed," is all she has to say. The friends decide to give her a ride to her isolated house by the end of the woods. Maya introduces Aji and friends to her blue-blooded mother, Darah, a woman of ageless enigma and few spoken words. Darah insists that their kindness should be repaid with a dinner feast. This is where the night turns into a crimson hell for the six friends, who find themselves trapped and hunted down by Darah and her cult-like family of her three deadly proteges, born and raised to systematically eliminate unsuspecting passers-by. So what we have, six friends who are travelling interstate in Indonesia. I won't go into details why they're travelling. It's something you're going to have to find out for yourself. But they're travelling interstate. There's six of them. And this is where they come across Maya. Now, Maya is a very, very strange young woman. She seems disorientated. And the six friends realise that she's been robbed. So she really needs help. And the six friends offer to take her to her house, which is a very remote sort of area at the end of the woods. So the six friends help her, they give her a ride, and they end up coming to Maya's house. And this is where Maya introduces the friends to Darah, who is the mother of Maya. Now, Maya's mother is like her, very, very weird, but they seem friendly enough. And Darah wants to repay the six friends for their generosity with a dinner feast. And so the six friends accept this offer, they go inside, and this is where they meet the rest of the family. There's a brother and there's an uncle. I think it was an uncle, but they're all very weird as well, but they seem harmless enough. So out of respect, the six friends decide to join them for dinner, and things get increasingly uncomfortable and weird. And when it's time to leave, this is where the six friends realize that they've been drugged. So they fall asleep, and when they wake up, they find out that they've been tied up in this room, and they're not going anywhere without a fight. And it turns out that Darah, Maya, and the rest of the family are psychopaths, and they pretty much eliminate anyone who comes by the house. So it really does turn out to a fight for survival for these six friends if they are to leave the house alive. So that's as far as I'm going to go. Synopsis. If you want to know more, please go and check the film out for yourself. I would highly recommend it. I don't give away spoilers in this film, so hopefully that synopsis left enough interest for you all to actually want to go and see it. So my thoughts on the film. Now, as I said, being an Indonesian film, I heard nothing about it. It's my first experience in an Indonesian film, which was really its blessing. Now, a lot of films out there, well, for me especially, they come with such hype that you kind of paint it as being a masterpiece before you've seen it. And when that expectation level is not met, I kind of feel that it's a bad movie. But in reality, it's not a bad movie. It just didn't meet the expectation levels. So going into a film with no expectation, well, little to none, it really is a blessing because you give it a very fair go, and it's a level of mystery. So if it's a bad film, well, it's okay because you didn't expect it to be a good one, and if it's a good one, it really does surprise you. And I can say with this film, I was absolutely blown away. This was more than surprising because it was actually very, very good. Now, what I loved about it the most, now there is a lot I loved about it, but what I loved about it the most is it stayed away from the stereotypes of slashers. Now, a lot of films where you get a group of friends, there's always one you hate, there's always one that's arrogant, there's always one that you know is going to die first, there's always one that you know is going to survive it. This film is very different because all 6 characters are very likable, and because of the fact they're very likable, it leaves a level of it's very unpredictable because each person has very likable personality traits. Therefore, you don't want to see any of them die, so you're left wondering just who will survive at the end. So it's not a very original storyline, but the way it's been told and the character development really did paint a very sort of unique approach in a very simple idea, which was down to the filmmaking. Very, very good filmmaking and surprisingly very good writing. So, as I said, the 6 characters were very, very real, they were likable, and it really did bring a sense of sympathy and fear when things start going really bad. So that's what I really liked about the 6 innocent people. Then you've got the villains who were equally as impressive. Now, to start with, they were weird, but they had a certain level of charm, which made it realistic as to how they would lure their victims into the positions that they find themselves in. Darah especially, she's a beautiful woman, but she is freaky at the same time, just by the way she portrays herself. There's a trademark of hers where she tilts her head to the side and just stares. Now, very, very simple, but very effective, and she is one of the best villains I've seen in any horror movie in a very, very long time. I would put her up there with Patrice Daly in Inside. While I think Patrice Daly's performance was much better, it just painted a very evil sort of person inside a seemingly harmless sort of cover, a pretty sort of cover, but down, they say don't judge a book by its cover. Definitely in the case here, she's very beautiful looking, very harmless looking, but deep down inside, she's a complete psychopath who's very, very vicious. And then you've got the other family members. Once again, they're very, very tidy looking, so they don't match the stereotypical sort of villain. So the character development and the way the characters were done in this film was very, very good. So I really liked it because of that. Now, the story, as I said, not very original, but it's okay because the way it's been told is different in its own sense. But what really blew me away was the gore in this film. This is a very, very nasty film, very bloodthirsty, very gory, a lot of decapitations, a lot of stabbings, a lot of face bashings. So if you have a weak stomach, I would definitely not recommend this film. As you can see on the front there's a finger on the fork, and on the back there are 2 women fighting with chainsaws over the dinner table. So what you see is what you get. It doesn't pretend it's a mild film. The cover says it all. It's going to be a violent, very disturbing sort of film, but at the same time, it's very fun. It's a very, very fun slasher. I wouldn't say it's as good as Inside, but I'd say in the gore department, it equals Inside. It was absolutely fantastic, and I actually started laughing towards the end, laughing because it was so awesome, in the fact that the director introduced pointless characters just for the reason, the director wanted more gore. So he introduced these characters who had nothing to do with the story really, but were obviously there to be cannon fodder. And when I saw this, I knew exactly what the director was doing, and I absolutely loved it. And I started laughing, not because it was ridiculous, just because it was so much fun. And if you're a gore hound, this is like a wet dream. It really is. Now, I've been very disappointed with some gore films lately. They haven't really matched my expectation, but this one completely blew it out of the water. As I said, gore-wise, this is up there with Inside. There were a few scenes that reminded me of Inside, which is really, really cool. This film doesn't rip off any ideas, but it does pay homage to a lot of films, especially New Wave French. I could actually sum it up as a film. It's an Indonesian film, but it really did feel like a New Wave French horror film. So if you like your gory French horror films, chances are you'll really like this one because I thought it was absolutely brilliant. There's the ending, well, I didn't really like it so much, but it doesn't matter because it's a very simple film with great gore, and that's all you want. It's a slasher. It's not supposed to be something that's going to make you think for ages after it's finished. It's definitely a film that's going to make you want to replay over and over. It's got tremendous replay value. I actually, at the end of it, the whole house was covered in blood. There were severed body parts everywhere. So if you're a gorehound, once again, you're going to love this film. And even if you're not a gorehound, but you like slashers, you're going to find a lot in this because it is very different, and it does paint a very unique style on the slasher genre. So I would say it's not like your American slashers, it's more like your French extreme slashers. So if you like that, you will love this film. I loved it. There is nothing to really dislike about it at all. And unfortunately, it didn't have a very good distribution, so this is a DVD-R. I don't know where I can get a legitimate copy, but until I actually find a legitimate copy, this one will do. So unfortunately, I don't know how easy it is to obtain a copy, but if you can get one, I would highly recommend you do so. If you're a gore hound, you will absolutely adore this film, just like I did. Alright guys, that's my review. It was an absolute ripper of a film. I would highly recommend it. So go out there and see it, because you will not be disappointed, especially if you like your gory films. Alright guys, that's it for my review. I'm sorry that it went over 10 minutes, but sometimes that can't be helped. So until next time, take care of yourselves, and I'll see you later.